Have you ever wondered how the Glock protocol allows Bitcoin to delegate all of the computations and verifications off-chain and still be able to reason about them and take action based on if the computations or verifications were correct or not? In this video, we will walk through this and we will try to understand how we can tie the off-chain land to the world of Bitcoin. And in doing so, we will be unlocking programmability on Bitcoin. Hello, everyone. I'm Mukesh Tiwari, and I'm a research engineer at Alpen Labs, where we're building out the Glock protocol. So we have our party Alice, who makes a claim, right? They make a claim about a computation that they say they have done. So she says, I claim that if you compute the function f on a value x, you get y, right? So she claims that she did the computation, and this is the result she got. And she is also happy to provide us a proof of this. So she says, and I have a proof. Now, this proof is basically generated using snarks, right? And which are very succinct. So um, these proofs can be verified in much faster time than it takes to actually do the computation. And verifying them gives you a cryptographic guarantee, a statistical guarantee that our Alice here is telling the truth, right? But we are not just happy with the computation happening. We need this to be actionable on Bitcoin, right? So for that, uh, we use Glock, and Glock is an optimistic protocol. So what that means is we have our party Bob here, who is our verifier, right? So in here, we can see Alice is the claimant because she made the claim, and Bob is the verifier. So the responsibility of Bob is to ensure that Alice is telling the truth, and he doesn't have to do the computation all over again. He just needs to ensure that the proof, let's call the proof pi, that Alice provided is correct. If the proof is correct, Bob does nothing, right? So this guy checks the proof, and if the proof is correct, he does nothing. And the nice thing about this is that there is nothing to be done on chain as well, right? So it's really clean, it's really minimal on the Bitcoin side as well. And this is why it's optimistic. We are hoping that Alice is a very honest person and they never make a mistake and Bob never has to go and compete, right? But we also, it would be really wonderful if we could always do this. But in real life, we also need to be ready for a situation where Alice might not be so truthful, right? They might have not done the computation or they might be claiming something else and they might have forged a proof. We don't know. And Bob has to, in that case, alert Bitcoin that Alice is not telling the truth. And this is the crux of the protocol. The way that Bob can inform Bitcoin and Bitcoin can understand that this computation that is happening off chain, right, and being done by the party Alice is incorrect by a very simple message is the mechanism, is the magical sauce of the clock, as I told in the very beginning. So let's see how we can do this, right? So, uh, so if the proof is incorrect, what does he do? Let's start. So, taking a step back, right? When we have a proof, we can generally run them through a verification algorithm off chain, right? So we have some sort of function which can do the verification, and at the out, we can see, oh yes, this is correct, or it's incorrect, and maybe this is helpful for Bob to decide what he needs to do next. But it's not enough because he cannot just go and say, "Hey, this is incorrect," right? Because then Alice will say, "Well, it's he says, it says like they say, me say, right? Like it's there is no." Uh, uh, let's cut the last slide. Mm. Yeah, so Bob basically needs to be able to inform Bitcoin that this is incorrect, right? It's not enough for them to just know this. Uh, so what we need is we need some sort of way to take this proof and we need to supply it through something. Uh, I don't know what the something is for now. So this is just an empty box. And at the end, we need to get something, right? A message, a signal, which if the proof is incorrect. And this signal is what Bitcoin is waiting for. As soon as it sees this, it knows that Alice is lying and she has not done the computation or is making false claims. And then Bitcoin can decide to take the path that corresponds to this claim being false. So the secret is basically agreed upon language which Bitcoin understands, which can be generated off chain in a very particular case, if and only if the proof is incorrect, right? But if the proof is correct, we basically need nothing, right? Because as we said, this is an optimistic protocol and Bob needs to do nothing if the proof is correct. So what we have here is what cryptographers would call a conditional disclosure of secret. All this means is that this is a secret. This is a mechanism to disclose a secret, to reveal a secret, but which is conditioned on something being true. In our case, the condition is that the proof is incorrect. Uh, for the sake of this video, we will treat this box as a black box because it deserves a whole video on its own. And we will have an entire video explaining opening this box and seeing how exactly this works very soon. So for now, this is black box. Let's just assume this exists. And let's also assume that we have got a secret, right? Now, Bob possesses a secret. How does it let Bitcoin know? Well, the mechanisms are pretty simple now, right? So earlier, we could have a UTXO, right, which can be spent if, which can be locked by either a hash lock, right, for which the pre-image is the secret, right? So in cryptography, we have something called a hash functions, which are functions where it's very easy to compute the function on the input, but it's very hard if I just give you the output and tell you to guess what the input might be, right? So it's very easy to go one way. So it's very easy to go from x to the hash of x, but it's very difficult to come this way. The only way that Bob can spend this is if the proof is incorrect, right? And they have gone through this black box and obtained the secret. So we can use a hash lock and we can, the other way is to simply say that the secret is the signing key, right? Then we can just say anybody who can provide a signature corresponding to this particular signing key can spend this Bitcoin. And only way Bob is ever able to spend it is if they have gone through this black box and got the secret, which is the secret key, and thus they can sign. So we saw how we can take a secret, assuming we have all of the construction ahead of it, right? The heavy lifting of the cryptography ahead of it, and signal on Bitcoin successfully, right? Every time anybody sees this UTXO or this Bitcoin, this amount being spent, they know that Alice must be uh, fraudulent or Alice must have made a mistake or Alice must be lying because there is no way that Alice is honest and Bob is still able to spend it. So that's good. Now, if you have been following very closely, you might be already raising alarms and you might be saying, wait, Alice should not agree to this protocol, right? She has no guarantee what the proof is that Bob will feed into this black box. So if Bob really decides to be malicious, what he can do is he can just create a proof which is false. Like he can just create fraudulent proof and he can just supply to that black box and he can get the secret out and he can be, hey, this is the secret, and therefore Alice is lying. So Alice, she will never agree to this. What she will say is, I want this black box to only accept proofs that are somehow authenticated by me, right? So I want it to only take in proofs that I have approved of, and there should be no one else who should be able to force this proof. So here I should write that we just don't need proofs, but we also need uh, proofs which are authenticated, right? All this means is that it's only the party who is making the claim that can generate these proofs. So the way to achieve now, also we have to get the proof on Bitcoin, right? Because that is our source of truth, and that's the only way we can enforce this protocol to proceed. So the way we do that is again by utilizing something very similar to hash locks. Uh, so let's go a little deeper into the box itself to understand the inputs much better. So imagine that the black box is like a huge box, a huge treasure trove with a lot of locks on it, multiple locks, right? And for each of the lock, you have two keys, right? So each of these locks, you have two keys, not just three. The number of locks depend on the size of the proof, right? So it's one per bit. And this box has a magical property that it will open if any of the key is red. So as soon as you put a red key in, the box is like, oh, I know that I don't like this, and the box will just, right? The box will only stay closed if all of the keys are green. Now, this is somewhat not typical of a box, right? But um, just it's simple if you understand it this way, right? So the box opens if any of the keys is green, and the only way to generate green keys is to have correctly done the computation. So we are kind of tying the loose ends now because we're almost there, right? Now, the only way Alice is the only party who has access to the keys, and the only way they know which one is red and which one is green if they do the computation correctly and create the proof correctly, right? If they don't go through the trouble of doing that, or if they want to lie, they are very likely that they will accidentally or knowingly or unknowingly slip in one of the red keys. And as soon as they do that, there is a mechanism to flag that on Bitcoin, right? So this forces Alice to behave honestly, and and in all other cases that they are not behaving honestly, uh, Alice is flagged as being fraudulent. So once we have this, these keys can also be now treated as hash locks, right? So we force Alice to post on chain. Whenever Bob says, I don't like, I'm not happy with it, like whenever Bob contests Alice's claim, the broader protocol that is employing Glock forces Alice to basically post one of the keys per lock, right? So they have full choice of which one to post. They know both of them, right? And only way that Alice can post uh, all the green ones is they have done the computation correctly, right? So what we have basically done is that we have taken authenticated inputs, right? We have taken authenticated inputs, which are transformed into a secret that Bitcoin can understand and reason about. Uh, but in doing so, we have still black box here, which we need to open and we need to actually instantiate. We need to create it, right? But we can do that. And we can do that with wonderful primitive, cryptographic primitive called Garble circuits, which are introduced by Yao. So to learn more about that, stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.